Hello, welcome back to Hoopsa. QPR's first championship match of the 24-25 season is now just 12 days away, and with just 4 players through the door so far this summer transfer window, some supporters are understandably starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. Martí Cifuentes worked nothing short of magic with the squad already at his disposal following his arrival last November, and that has many of us confident of a better finish next season, especially given the individual improvements he coached out of the likes of Jimmy Dunn, Sam Field and Elias Chair. But even with the quick impact that Cifuentes made, extra manpower was still needed to get us over the line, with Anderson, Frey, Hodge and Hayden being parachuted into the club at Dazzel's expense in January. And while some of those 4 players had bigger roles to play than others, every one of them played a part in our survival. I have no doubt that had we not made those additions, QPR would have almost undoubtedly been relegated. Now, plenty of work has been going on at Rangers this summer, with considerable shake-ups in the development squad, long-term coaches leaving, new partnerships being formed with analytics agencies, and new roles being created, most recently a head of methodology. It's very clear that great efforts are being made to get QPR functioning like a proper football club, both now and in the future. The thing is though, while we've brought in 4 new faces, a higher number of players that were in or around the first team squad have left Loftus Road, with Willock, Armstrong, Begovic and Hayden being the biggest impacts on the playing squad. We've also added just 1 attacking option to a team that is desperately in need of fresh ideas going forwards. And while pre-season results count for very little, that has been evident in our lack of goals against Spurs, Fulham and Reading. Now, back in May, I put a video out on where I thought our biggest transfer priorities lie this summer, so given we're now less than 2 weeks away from the season starting, now feels like a good time to revisit the squad, see what we've added, what we've lost and talk about where the work still needs to be done. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoy this video, and let's jump straight into it. Now, those of you who watched my squad review video at the start of the summer may recall that I identified 8 different positions that we needed to recruit in during this transfer window, with 9 players needed in total at a minimum. At the back, these were a new starting goalkeeper to replace Begovic, a replacement centre-back for Clark Salter should reported Premier League interest come to fruition, and a new left-back to replace Powell should he leave for a fee given he's now in the last year of his contract and attracting interest from Watford. In the middle, I was hoping for a defensive midfielder to replace Hayden, an attacking midfielder to rotate with Anderson, a right winger to replace Chris Willock and share the load with Paul Smith, and a deputy for Elias Chair. And finally, up top, I wanted to see 2 new strikers, one to replace Lyndon Dykes, who I felt and still feel it's time to sell, and one to replace Armstrong, who at the time I felt could have done with a loan out this season had he signed a new long-term contract. And I wasn't alone in saying that these were our biggest priorities. We have to fix this team's lack of goals next season. Now, so far we've brought in 4 players, but only 2 of them are in the positions that I highlighted. Goalkeeper Paul Nardi has come in from Ghent on a free, making an impressive debut against Spurs last week with his strong distribution and shot blocking. So that's our starting goalkeeper sorted, with Walsh and Mahoney backfilling for him. Liam Morrison at centre-back is an interesting one because with the strength of our backline under Marty, this didn't really feel like an obvious position to add to earlier in the window. But with that said, the murmurs of Premier League interest in Clark Salter are still bubbling away, and so we may have just got ourselves a high potential successor just in case. Signed at the same time was Herberton Santos at right back, and this one's the most curious because with Dunn's transformation last season and Cannon waiting in the wings, it felt like a position that was covered. Now, some have pointed out that it might be that we're looking to use him as a winger, but then Cifuentes spoke after the Reading loss about deploying him there only because we don't have another winger behind Smith. So on that basis, if we get a right winger in and Santos moves back to right back, we now have 3 available. Again, some thought this could suggest that Dunn's switch to right back was only temporary, but he's lined up there multiple times in pre-season so far. The other priority position we filled, of course, is striker, with Jan Seller joining from Lugano almost immediately after Armstrong departed for Bristol City. With the fee that we've paid for Seller and his goal scoring record in Switzerland, I would imagine he is going to be our starting striker next season, which currently leaves Frey and Dykes as our bench options. So according to my crude squad diagram, that's at least 4 positions left to be filled. With my preference of moving on Dykes, that's 5, and if any of Chair, Powell or Jake Clark-Salter go before the end of the window, we'll need replacements for each of them too. The midfield for me is clearly the next biggest priority. I spoke in my Spurs reaction about how light we felt there, and that didn't really improve against Reading. Cifuentes putting Morrison out in the middle for a late cameo on Saturday afternoon felt like as clear a signal as any that he isn't happy with his current options there. And honestly, I totally understand that. We can't go a whole season with only Dixon Bonner, Field and Colback, especially given Colback's age and pension for a card. We need a confident, commanding centre mid that can link up play at both ends of the pitch pitch. Someone in that Isaac Hayden mould, whether it be him returning, though that rumour has gone very cold right now, or someone like him, as we've seen with the ongoing rumour of Jonathan Varane. We also still need backup for Lucas Anderson in that number 10 role. The Dane featured in all 16 of QPR's matches since his arrival last season, but only 3 times did he make it past the 80-minute mark, and on one occasion it was for just a single minute. Now, in fairness, he hadn't played in nearly 2 months by the time he joined QPR, and so just like Frey, only now are we seeing a sharper player in pre-season. But the fixtures come thick and fast in the Championship, and we're already starting off the season with 3 matches in 7 days, so a player to share the load and inject another creative spark into this side is desperately needed in my opinion. By the time of Chris Willock's departure, I think most of us really weren't too fussed, but he was a starting player in this team last season, and most people thought last season that Smithy was a better impact off the bench against a tired defence. And for as much as he never got close to looking like his old self, Willock still ended as our 3rd highest goal scorer last season with the same number of goal involvements as Lyndon Dykes, behind only Elias Chair. So bringing in another attacking goal threat on that right hand side is a must. And over on the other side, Chair will need backup too. I don't need to explain how vital Chair is to this team. We were so incredibly lucky that he remained available for us last season, and now we're facing the potential of starting this season without him with the back injury that's kept him out since the R's return from Girona. If that injury persists, we will struggle at the start of this season. Now, we spoke earlier about the fact that Cifuentes will use Santos on the right if he needs to, but I think there are some other possibilities too, like the potential for Ryan Colley and 18-year-old Australian Daniel Benny to deputise on either flank. The pair have been involved in every first-team friendly so far this summer, with Colley catching the eye against Spurs and having a goal disallowed against Reading, and Benny letting off a rocket just moments after his sub onto the pitch against Santa Coloma. I think it's clear with how much that they've been involved that it's likely that either one or both will be in the first team squad next season. And honestly, I feel quite split about that. On one hand, these are obviously exciting prospects that we could turn into valuable assets by giving them that first team platform. Colley looks eager to step up, and Benny has already played a whole season in the A-League last year at just 17 years old. The problem is though, if they both struggle, we're incredibly short of senior options there, and it feels like a big risk to throw them in and hope that they produce the goods. It's kind of how I felt about Armstrong last season. He only came into the team because we didn't have any strikers, and a loan might have helped him develop better in a low pressure environment. Up top, as I've already said, Dykes still needs to go for me if at all possible to make space for another striker. We've brought Seller in, but we know Dykes' goal scoring record isn't strong enough, and a different kind of forward to complement Jan, perhaps someone pacier and more agile, would be ideal to give us another option. There has been talk of Blackburn and Rangers both being interested in Dykes, though his recurring ankle injury may put off any potential suitors this summer. And as mentioned earlier, if Powell does go, a new left back is crucial, especially given that Lakesh is now heading out on loan to Dundee. Now, that may be an indicator that Powell is staying put this season, but with only a year left on his deal and no suggestions that he's signing a new one, I don't think the club will turn down a decent offer if we receive one. Morgan Fox will presumably be the cover there if Powell stays and gets injured, given that he spent most of his career at left back before being turned into a centre back at Stoke, but we would lose an attacking presence down that left hand side if that was to occur over the long term. So in short, with 4 players in so far, I personally feel we still need at the very minimum 5 more incomings. A defensive midfielder, another 10, an attacking player on either flank, and another striker. But obviously there are a lot of factors at play affecting our business right now. For one, we don't actually know the size of the budget that Marty has available to him, and the transfer window doesn't close until the end of August, a point by which Rangers will have played 6 matches in all competitions. It's quite rare that QPR, or often most teams in this league, have all their business wrapped up by the time of their first match, but it's a very tough opening month for the R's, so the more we can get done the earlier, the better. With the way that we replaced Armstrong with Seller so quickly, it seems we're working on the basis of 1 in, 1 out right now, so Lakesh's imminent loan could suggest at least 1 arrival this week. Eze's potential sale also feels like a domino that could trigger a higher calibre of business, but if that happens at the end of the window, we're not going to have the time to utilise those funds until at least January. I imagine we may be looking to utilise the loan market too at an earlier stage than last season. Our loans in January were real game changers for us, although Rangers do typically tend to wait until closer to the window shutting for those to see who is available for a cut price. I'm confident we will see at least 2 or 3 come in over the next couple of weeks before that first match, And with the business we've done so far, I do trust Nauri and Cifuentes to do what needs to be done, but it would be nice if we could get a bit of a move on. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let me know what you think about QPR's transfer window so far. Are there any clear priorities to you that I haven't mentioned? What would be your #1 ideal signing next? And as I said at the beginning of the video, if you've enjoyed this and you're not already a subscriber, please do like the video and hit subscribe. It really helps me to grow out the channel. I'm so close to hitting 2,000 subscribers. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers!